Members, visitors, just let you know, we're just waiting to go back online again. Just not takes long. Thank you. This is nice. Thank you. So we'll move on to application number 4 now. James has taken us through it. It's proposed residential development at southeast of Clooney Road. James, over to yourself.
Good afternoon, members. Sorry, as per usual, we've had a wee bit of technical difficulties, so Rosie's going to put up the presentation on her laptop there. Okay, thank you. This is item 4, LA11 2022 or 114R. Sorry, this is the full application, sorry, for a proposed residential development comprising 674 dwellings. This will include 33 detached, 473 semi-detached, and 168 apartments. It includes an open space, landscaping, new equipped children's play area, bus route, suds pond, and all associated site and access works. And this is the latest application we've had in for the H30 zoning, which is located just across the new bridge and to the left as you head out towards Eglinton. And as you can see there, the location map and the overhead aerial photograph of the site. You can see from the aerial photograph that works have already begun on site, and that's through a previous approval. As you visit the site, you can see there's been development of a large apartment block. As soon as you go in and to the left, several houses have been already developed and occupied. The proposed application site layout here is everything you can see in green, which is to the right and to the top left. The Clooney Road would run along the bottom of the site, and the development part that's in white is actually previously approved, and therefore that's under construction. As I mentioned before, the planning history of the site has significant history over the last 8 years. We have an outline approval that worked with a concept plan that had set down various permeable and legible and character areas that was adhered to, and we had subsequent reserved matters applications for 295 dwellings, 444 and 252 dwellings. And we recently approved a neighbourhood centre, which would be just to the right of the site as you move in. The application, once advertised, received 40 representations. Lack of social private housing balance, existing private residents not being informed that the site is now for social housing, loss of value of existing dwellings, increase in number of units resulting in overdevelopment, issues raised with regard to the draft local development plan, increase in traffic onto Grantia and Carr roundabouts, and the deteriorating condition of the Ross Downey Road, and the loss of hedgerows to the Ross Downey Road. There's been an assessment of those within the committee report. Consultees have raised no objection, subject to conditions and informatives for most of them. However, as the application has had significant history on this, a lot of the consultees have been able to revisit, and a lot of issues have been dealt with through reserved matters applications previously. What's of particular interest, however, is the Northern Ireland Housing Executive response. They were consulted due to the fact that the application is now for social housing. They have advised that as of February this year, there was a need of 619 social homes within the waterside area, and that would take it up to 2023 to 2028 timeframe. This application is for 674 units, so therefore it would satisfy the need for social housing for the next few years in the waterside area. They've also a letter of support for the application, and the fact that the makeup and the actual application in terms of semi-detached, detached and apartments would meet their needs. And overall, the zoning now would, if this is approved, result in 926 dwellings. Policy context, we've assessed the application under obviously the area plan, the PPS2 natural heritage, PPS3 access, movement and parking, archaeology, the quality residential environments, open space planning and flood risk, and full explanation of those policies and consideration are in your committee report. Now, one of the key kind of considerations we had when this going back to the outline application was because of the size of the site to have various character areas within it that actually gave a bit of interest, and as you move through the site there'll be different styles of dwellings and apartment units. What you see here is a detached house type, which is a typical application within phase 1 and 2. This would be more the rural, semi-rural area, which is on the, as you look at the application on the left-hand side, which heads in down in towards the Eglinton direction. The idea of the design at the minute is to produce something more of a traditional style, so therefore you can see the more of the use of stonework within the application. And for example, the apartment and semi-detached houses, which there's a semi-detached one, offers something a little bit more different. You've got the use of half dormers, still get the use of stone, and the details and the finishes and fenestration would be fairly traditional in their makeup. This would be the apartment buildings that we would use. The apartment buildings, it would be more of a traditional two-story affair where you could have access from both the gable and from the back access from the gable and the front of the elevation. Then as we move into phases 3 and 4, we come to a more contemporary design, which is to match, for example, Summer Meadows, which sits just above the site. And that's to provide a wee bit more of a link towards moving into the city as opposed to a traditional rural area. You can see here, you still get a little bit of the use of stone, but a wee bit more of the use of strapping or fenestration around the windows. What we have here now, this will be the largest building that we would have proposed today on the site. And these 3-story apartment buildings, now they would be located down towards the car roundabout area. The idea of which is if you're placing a large building like that on a sloping site, you have to be very careful as to how it works with the rest of the dwellings. This will be at the lowest part of the site. It can provide supervision onto the suds area and the open space area. It also faces into the site on the other elevation onto the front of houses as you approach in through phase 3 and phase 4. Therefore, there's no overlooking or issues with height as it sits at a lower level. And in terms of levels and sections throughout the site, this gives an example of how it's been treated. First off, they are situated back to back, so you don't have a front elevation looking into somebody's rear elevation. You can see from there with the green trees basically that there'll be buffers put in between both rear amenity spaces, so therefore it gives a wee bit of privacy towards both sets of whoever residents, whoever's living in there, and particularly for the lower development where you have significant distance away from your neighbour above, but you also have that separation with landscaping which will mature and grow over time and provide you then with a bit more privacy. And again, this is a section for the Ross Downey Road, which is the upper part. One of the representations and objections we got was the removal of the hedgerow along the Ross Downey Road. That was part of a pre-agreed mitigation strategy. The road itself required an upgrade in terms of having a vehicle restraint system, which is basically crash barrier. The road will be slightly widened and then will be given a landscaped area just beyond the crash barrier. And then as you can see, it's the back gardens of the proposed houses. And there's a sufficient separation distance away. So we're content that the road situation for that element of the site will be improved at the Ross Downey Road. And we have put back in mitigating planting as well that will replace the hedgerow that was lost. Now, what you can see here is the proposed open space plan. Within the green areas that you can see there would be the buffer planting, which would be absorbed within private areas and back gardens and separation between dwellings. The purple area there is actually the public open space. Everything to the left would be part of the previous approval, which has been implemented on site. The open space plan, whilst the development has changed in terms of housing, makeup and density, it has adhered to the principles of the concept where there was to be a linear strip through the middle, which you can see in purple, that retains large trees protected by tree preservation orders. There's also 2 large strips to the front, which you can see the purple line that strays along the front of the site. They all tie up in an agreed open space area that will be managed by the developer and Choice Housing. And they will connect visually as well as provide pedestrian routes that you can use throughout to enjoy the open space itself. This is just a zoom in of the linear park, which has several trees protected by tree preservation orders and provides a break between, as I mentioned, the phases before, with more of a traditional design to a more contemporary design. There will be connections through in terms of a road, and there'll be, as you can see, the white line that goes through that is just a pedestrian link and walkway that you can move through the site, and it just gives an alternative means of moving through the site. You can see there the 2 roads, the left and right of it, will form part of the bus route, which we'll get onto in a wee minute. So this is just an example of the play park and small pocket parks, which are just bits of like green space within the development to break up development and also provide points for access. To the far right of it, you can see there's a pedestrian access onto the Crescent Link, which will then allow any potential residents to access the facilities above in terms of the Crescent Link Retail Park. Just in the centre is the equipped play park. The actual makeup of the play park and the equipment are within the committee pack. And then you have 2 grassed areas and landscaped areas just to the left of that again are tied in and they will be managed and maintained as well as part of the open space strategy. Traffic and parking. Previously, we have approved the parking within it at a slightly reduced ratio of 1.7 parking spaces per unit. With this application, there is a slight increase in density. It is now gone to 1.6, which we believe is acceptable. This is counterbalanced by the bus route is now being taken further into the site and will now access the upper areas, which then gives people a lot more of an option to use public transport. Again, the consideration is within the PPS3 section of the committee report. In addition to that, any occupant will be offered the use of a travel card provided by the developer to encourage the use of public transport. And again, this is agreed as part of Section 76 legal agreement. There will be existing bus stops are on Clooney Road and Crescent Link, and the pedestrian connection on the Crescent Link as well will be provided. And that provides access to shopping facilities, as I mentioned before, which include schools, hotel, and other retail facilities. And the site also then will provide access to other pedestrian and cycling routes within the area. Sorry, folks, there's just been a wee problem with the slide there, but basically the slide outlines the road improvements to Grantia and Carr roundabouts. As part of the application, the developer recognised that there would be a significant increase into the traffic onto the Clooney Road, which then naturally would move onto the Carr roundabout. So therefore, the condition will be imposed that prior to occupation of any dwelling within this, hereby approved, the developer shall complete construction of the upgrade, mitigation works and signalisation required to the Grantia roundabout junction. Because this would be a pre-existing condition and agreement, the numbers that we're providing for here will already be met by the time we start to build this application. However, the Carr roundabout trigger point was sitting at just over 300 houses, so therefore that's been amended to take into account what's been approved. So no more than 48 dwellings can be occupied, and that's part of this application that's approved today. And then the works required, the Carr roundabout junction then will have to be completed. And in summary and conclusion, officers consider that this is a positive and quality development. There's a high standard of design that we don't often get with regards to social housing, and there's a good mix as you move through the development. We have a better bus route than previously approved, and the landscape and play facilities are all as would be required of a development of this size. The open space would be, for something of this size, 15% requirement. It's sitting at 17.8. And the proposals complied with policies as detailed in the report, and taking account of the policy material considerations and the representations received. Members should note that if the application is approved, the decision notice will not be issued until the associated Section 76 modification is finalised and signed. And therefore, just to recap, it has met the criteria of PPS 7, QD1, provision of infrastructure works in accordance with PPS 3 and has met with DFI roads approval. Provision of sewage and land drainage has been dealt with in accordance with PPS 15. The protection of archaeology built heritage in accordance with PPS 6 and the protection of natural heritage interests in accordance with PPS 2. And therefore, officers recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you, James. An awful lot of work gone into that one as well. I have a number of indicator speakers. I don't know who's coming forward, but gentlemen or ladies, whoever it is, go on ahead. So I'm taking this as Tom and John and George. Thank you. Gents, between you, you have 5 minutes. We're dividing it up. And I'll let you know shortly before that, and be time to wrap up then. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for the opportunity to address the committee. To my right is George Brawley, the applicant from South Bank Square, and to my left is John Anderson, the Development Director from Choice Housing Association, and we're all happy to answer any questions that you may have at the end. The application represents an amendment, as we've heard from the officer, for the remainder of the H30 master plan following the approval of the revised Phase 1 by this committee back in October 2022. The subject site was originally granted approval under the outline permission with 2 subsequent reserve matters. The main reason for the amended proposals before members today is the change from the originally envisaged private housing development to a social-led proposal, which will be delivered by South Bank Square in partnership with Choice. As many of the members in this committee will realise, this city has a chronic housing shortage, and this proposal, together with the Phase 1, which is currently under construction, will go some way to addressing this housing shortage by contributing a total of 926 social, affordable, starter and family homes, all supported by the Northern Ireland Housing Executive. The housing mix for the 674 before you today within this phase includes detached, semi-detached apartments for social and affordable private housing needs. Most members will hopefully know the site and will know that this is a quality housing scheme with generous walkways, landscaped areas and equipped play areas in Suds Pond. The layout for this next portion of the site has been designed with a number of distinct character areas reflected by different designs and materiality to give each character area its own unique identity and to create a sense of place for future residents. The amended proposals have also resulted in a number of key benefits, and two of these I think worth highlighting and have already been touched on by the officer is the provision of the bus route, which will now penetrate the entirety of the site. There will be a new bus loop that will go around the entire scheme compared to the previous turning circle, which terminated to the left and to the right of the original proposal around too many roundabouts, which, if you recall, some members had concerns with. The children's play area has been relocated to the main area of green space, tying into the network of footways rather than in the turning circus within the previous approval. In addition, the firm commitment to deliver housing on this site from Choice Housing Association provides much more certainty around the timing and delivery of the off-site highway works, and the triggers for which remain identical to the outline planning permission. The proposals within this full application represent an overall betterment and improvement to the previously approved reserved matters and will provide much needed social and affordable housing for the city. The development will deliver a spacious and high quality residential scheme, and together with phase 1 provides around 18% open space across the site. All consultees have signed off subject to conditions. The applicant and the design team would like to thank your officers and the statutory consultees and all those who have been engaged in this major application and this process, whom we have worked together with over the last 10 months to ensure the proposals represent the best possible solution for the delivery of much needed quality housing. And finally, members, this ongoing partnership between Choice Housing Association and South Bank Square forms part of an overall investment in excess of £125 million, which is a huge commitment from Choice for this council area. This partnership between Choice and South Bank Square will continue to support hundreds of construction jobs and the local supply chain over the next 5 to 10 years. Your officers have recommended the application for approval, and we would love you to endorse it this afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, members, I'll open up the floor for any members to ask any questions. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Chair. There is a critical housing need in the water side, and this application is certainly a welcome step in addressing that. I note in the report that no dwellings will be occupied until the upgrade works on the Grand Shell roundabout are completed. I welcome that. I do also note that upgrade works on the car roundabout no more than 48 dwellings will be occupied before upgrades on the car roundabout are completed. Assuming we approve this application today, would you be prepared to offer any sort of a timeline for when these upgrade works on the roundabouts will start and hopefully be completed? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the question, and through the chair. The current build rate or anticipated build rate is around 80 units per annum. So if you do the sums roughly based on the current triggers, Grantia should start fairly imminently with Caw in a few years' time. It is worth mentioning, because I know some members in the chamber may be aware, there are discussions ongoing with DFI separately to potentially bring Caw forward in advance of Grantia. But that's not what's before the members today. Before the members today is the same triggers as previously outlined in the original granted outline application.
Councillor Fleming. Okay, Councillor Logue.
I just want to welcome this furtherance of this application. I have passed the site on a number of occasions, and I have to say the development does look really, really well. I'm glad to see that the bus is now going through the whole site. I think when this first came to us, we were told because of the gradient. I think that was a bit of a hindrance for the bus going through the whole site, but I'm glad to see now that that has been sorted. Just a wee bit concerned about the reduction in the car space I do know that you've took data from the 2011 census. Was that same data not available for the 2021? Or, you know, regarding car ownership and that?
Go ahead.
Thank you for the question. Again, through the chair, in terms of the parking ratios, I suppose when you look at the detail of the proposal, there's a mix on the site, as I had outlined, in terms of 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 bed family homes. So the smaller unit housing has 1 space, and then the larger 3 bed family homes tend to have 2 spaces. In terms of parking ratios, I'm going to bring John in from Choice, because they've obviously got experience of other social housing schemes in terms of what they seem to, or what they see on the ground in terms of take up of car ownership, etc.
Just before John comes in,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, John, I do want to say that Councillor Fleming has already alluded to it as critical that these 2 roundabouts are sorted, and you know we wouldn't want to be seeing any delay in the progress of the management of those roundabouts. Thank you.
I suppose just before John maybe comes in, just to comment on the roundabout piece. I suppose the fact, I don't know if I maybe explained it well enough whenever I presented my note, the fact there's now a firm commitment from Choice and that this is not a private housing scheme, which is reliant on private market conditions and private sales, etc., gives a greater degree of certainty over the timing of those coming forward.
Thank you, Chair. And just, I'll not dwell on, but just on the roundabouts, it is something we are acutely aware of then. And I have to say, DFI have very proactively engaged with us. And I would be confident we'll agree the change and the brought forward, if you like, of the upgrade to the core roundabout sooner than is currently allowed for. On car parking, we commissioned a number of technical studies. You know, you can imagine in social housing, we see lower car ownership generally than might be considered full standard, you know, under DFI norms. The proposal here would be, you know, well in excess of what we would see in general terms across the province here. And I suppose leaning into that, we have allocated now quite a few of the homes that we've built in phase 1. And even anecdotally, when you drive past it, definitely car parking does not present as a problem on the ground. You know, there is a space at every front door, and that there's not a proliferation of cars on the site there by any means. So we're very content now that there will be adequate parking for our tenants.
Yes, that Councillor Oak. Yeah. Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and can I thank you all for your presentation here today. It's really, really comprehensive, and I also thank the officers. We all know this is a welcomed development for much needed social housing within the Waterside area. You know, I just want to reiterate again, I know you've made assurances there about the critical work that needs done to the roundabouts, which is like mad now without putting this large development into the mix. So that is really, really vital. I do welcome the bus route going through. We need to be getting to greener options, and you know that might have an impact on the fact that you have reduced the car parking allocation to 1.6 from 1.72, was it? You know, so, but all in all, we really welcome this development, and we wish you luck should this be passed today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Morris. Councillor Minute.
Thank you, Chair. Just to welcome the news today and the application brought forward. Obviously, it's extremely comprehensive, but more so as well that you know it'll go some way to alleviate the housing stress in the city and district at this moment in time, and also the fact there's welcome indications about the traffic signalisation that Grantia and Call is imperative and critical given the current state of affairs at that location, and welcome the news that perhaps Call could be sooner or later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minnie. Any further questions, gentlemen? Anybody online? No. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for attending today. Okay, members, so we have a recommendation here to approve, so can I have a proposer and seconder? My apologies to everybody. Can I have any questions for the officers first, please? Thank you. Joe, Councillor Fleming, go ahead.
For proposal, if that's all right. As I've already iterated, there is a critical need for housing in the waterside, and this is a welcome step in addressing it. And in addition to that, as multiple members in the chamber have already stated, upgrade works on the Grand Shancar roundabout are a critical part of this development. And one more time, the developers have given assurances that they understand the importance of these upgrades and that they are in conversation with DFI about the car roundabout. I'll urge them to make any and all efforts to advance those works in a timely manner. And I'm happy to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Morris.
Thank you, Chair. I'm also happy to second this proposal here today for all of the reasons that's been stated previously. Again, this is really vital infrastructure. And yeah, it's great to see that maybe the housing stress will be alleviated or certainly cheaper, sorry. Sorry, just basically that the housing, if it's not totally alleviated but on the other side, that is certainly making strides towards that. So we welcome the application and we're happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a proposer and seconder there, so we'll just go to a vote on this. We still have one person online, so we'll need to take a vote.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So item 4, members' proposal to accept officer's recommendation to approve. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Mara.
Okay. Alderman Nair McMorris.
Or
Okay. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Or.
Okay. Councillor John Boyle.
Or.
Okay. Councillor Caroline Devine. Okay. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson left the meeting. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Yeah.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
Or.
Okay. Councillor Sean Mooney.
Work.
Okay. Councillor Patrick Murphy left the meeting. Councillor Martin Riley. He declared an interest. And Councillor Grace O'Neillis. Thank you. It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, Maura, and thank you everybody on that. Okay, members, we're moving on to application number 2. This is Carrick Gardens Road, Castle Derrick, and Laura will be taking us to this one. Please do, please do. I'll just wait until Martin goes back. No, I don't want him to miss out now. Or a Martin's Pike, you can go ahead there now.
Application LA 11 2023 18040 is a outline application for a dwelling and garage located 15 metres north of 3 Sproul Road with a new access onto Carrickdartons Road, Castlederg, and the recommendation is to refuse. This application was previously presented to members on the 6th of November and was deferred for a site visit which took place on the 18th of November. So this is the application site. It's located in the western half of a larger agricultural field at the crossroads of Sproul and Carrickdartons Road. The field itself is enclosed by a post and wire fence. There's a hedgerow along the roadside boundary with one tree, and there are 2 trees in the southern field boundary. There's also an agricultural access at the northern corner of the site. The land within the field is relatively level but rises slightly to the north and eastern boundaries. The site's located in the rural area, approximately 3 kilometres southeast of Castlederg. So this is a concept plan provided by the agent and indicates the location of the dwelling proposed in purple there, along with landscaping on all of the site boundaries. Here we have an image of the application site taken from Sproul Road. And again, another photo here taken from Sproul Road. And then this is just a view of the site from Carrickdartons Road. In terms of the policy, this application is assessed under the Strabane Area Plan, the SPPS and Plan and Policy Statements 21, 2, 3, 16 and 15, and along with the design guide. There have been no letters of support or objections received with regards to this plan and application. In terms of consultation responses, there have been no objections from any of the consultees, and we have standard conditions and advice proposed. So this proposal is assessed under policy CTY2A of PPS 21, given that the application is located within the countryside. So policy CTY2A refers to new dwellings and existing clusters, and this policy requires that all of the 6 criteria set out in that policy are met. So here, in terms of the first criteria, that the development lies outside of a farm and consists of 4 or more buildings, of which at least 3 are dwellings. So we can see here on the drawing that there are 5 buildings in the vicinity of the application site, which include 4 dwellings and a car repair workshop. However, and note that these are outside of a farm. However, these are dispersed from each other and they're not clustered, which is required by the policy. So therefore, the first criteria isn't considered to be met. The second criteria requires that the cluster appears as a visual entity in the landscape. The view from Sproul Road approaching the site, the buildings at 3 and 5 are not intervisible with the buildings at 12 Sproul Road and 5 Carrickdartons Road. And this view and the existing collection of 5 buildings therefore do not appear as a visual entity in the local landscape. Following the last committee and site visit, had noted in the last presentation that there was, it's also noted in the planning report that there was a plan appeal opposite the application site adjacent to 12 Sproul Road, and the details of that were submitted to members. Just to reiterate that this determined that the buildings at 12 Sproul Road and 5 and 3 Carrickdartons Road and 5 Sproul Road are sequentially intervisible when travelling along Carrickdartons Road and Sproul Road, but because of the separation distances between them, they don't read as a cluster, which is described as a particular and discrete unit, but rather they are a loose collection of buildings. Just to note that the site and surrounding area hasn't changed since this PAC decision, and officers would concur with this assessment by the PAC. So the next criteria requires that the clusters associated with a focal point, and those are named in policy CTY2A. So clearly we can see here that there is a crossroads, and therefore that criteria is considered to be met. So the next criteria 4 requires, there are 2 parts to this criteria: that the site provides a suitable degree of enclosure and is bounded on 2 sides with with other development in the cluster. So in terms of being bounded on two sides, clearly we can see that the application site isn't bounded on any side. The land to the north and the east of the site is agricultural land. The land to the south on the other side of Sproul Road is a small field. And the land to the west of the site on the other side of Carrickdartons Road is a small field. And really only the northern tip of the site is opposite the access lane to the workshop building at 12 Sproul Road. So in terms of bounding, that part of the criteria isn't met. With regards to the site providing a suitable degree of enclosure, so we can see here that the southern boundary only has 2 small trees, and the western boundary has a low hedge and 1 small tree. And the northern and eastern boundaries, which are defined by the red line, are completely devoid of vegetation. And therefore there will be clear views into the site when traveling in either direction along Sproul and Carrickdarton Road. It's considered that the minimal vegetation which exists here doesn't provide a suitable degree of enclosure to enable a dwelling and garage to integrate into the landscape. The agent had made reference to providing significant new planting, which can be seen on the proposed concept plan. But I mean, PPS 21 is clear that significant new planting alone will not be sufficient to integrate a dwelling on the site. It also refers to contours of the site, but officers don't consider that the backdrop alone from one view and one approach to the site would mitigate against the unacceptable visual impact of a new dwelling and garage on this site. So therefore, the proposal doesn't meet this criteria of policy CTY2A as well as policy CTY13 of PPS 21. In terms of criteria 5, development in the site can be absorbed into the existing cluster through rounding off and consolidation. The proposal can't be absorbed into the existing dispersed pattern of development through rounding off and consolidation. The site clearly doesn't abut any of the surrounding development and will extend on the undeveloped side of the crossroads and will visually intrude into the landscape in the countryside. The application site at the minute provides a visual break between the buildings at 3 and 5 Sproul Road and the buildings at 12 Sproul Road and 5 Carrickdartons Road. The proposal would result in the site in 4 dwellings with a 160-metre stretch of Sproul Road, which would create a suburban style build-up of development, which would alter the character of this area. And therefore, the 5th criteria isn't considered to be met, as well as policy CTY14 of PPS 21. The final criteria of policy CTY2A is considers amenity. Whilst no specific design details have been received, officers are content in terms of the amenity that sufficient amenity space can be provided on the site, and a dwelling on the site wouldn't impact on any of the neighbouring properties. So therefore, this criteria is met. So overall, just to summarise in terms of policy CTY2A, this policy requires that you meet all of the 6 criteria of that policy, and clearly this proposal fails to meet 4 out of those 6 criteria, and the proposal therefore isn't considered to be acceptable in principle in terms of policy CTY2A of PPS 21. And then just to consider the other policies which are potentially relevant within PPS 21 in terms of policy CTY8. Clearly this building doesn't create or add to a ribbon of development, and therefore it won't engage the exception whereby a dwelling could be permitted. And then in terms of policy CTY1, overall the development doesn't meet any of the cases in which a dwelling would be permitted in the countryside, and there are no overriding reasons demonstrated to justify why this development is essential at this rural location, and the proposal is contrary to policy CTY1. In terms of policy CTY16, sewage details have been provided, and therefore the proposal complies in that respect. In terms of all our policy considerations, PPS 15 was considered. You'll remember from that photo, there was significant what appeared to be flooding on the site, but DFI Rivers were consulted regarding this and are content that there was a drainage issue on the site, which has now been resolved. In terms of PPS3, DFI Roads have no objections to the proposal. Sufficient space can be provided within the site for parking, and therefore the proposal complies with PPS3. In terms of PPS2, information was submitted in this respect. There's no hydrological links to any designated site. SAS have no objections, so therefore the proposal complies with PPS2. And in terms of PPS6, there is an archaeological site within proximity of the proposal, but HED have been consulted and don't have any objections. So overall, just to summarise, the proposal fails to meet criteria 1, 2, 4 and 5 of policy CTY 2A of PPS 21 and therefore is not acceptable in principle. The proposal doesn't meet any of the cases where a dwelling could be granted under policy CTY 1 of PPS 21, and the proposal would not visually integrate into the surrounding landscape and would create a suburban style build-up of development, which is contrary to policy CTY 13 and CTY 14 of PPS 21, and therefore refusal is recommended. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laura, for that. We don't have any indicated speakers on this one, so I'm going to go straight to questions for officers, please, if any members have any. Councillor Boyd.
Thanks, Chair. Just for clarity, Laura, thanks for the presentation and the information in the pack as well. Just for clarification, this to me, from what I'm reading, looks like an application that's been refused twice before. Would that be correct?
No, sorry. There's no planning history on this application site. If we're referring to the appeal that's in the site opposite the application site. So.
That's grand, Chair. I just wanted to clear that up in my own head. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else any questions for the officer? Anybody online? No questions for officers. So members, we have a recommendation here to refuse. Just tell it to yourselves if anybody has any proposals to make or comments to make. Alderman Keegan.
Thank you, Chair. I'll have to comment more than anything else. I do thank officers for attendance to the site visit, and as you can see, some of the pictures, maybe well sitting on site rather than some of the pictures in the pack, there had been an issue in regards to block drain, and the pictures in the pack were less flattering than what was on the ground. In regards to it, I see there's 4 refusal reasons, and again, I could argue the case in regards to the demand area plan. In regards to the first one, I could argue the case. I do feel it could integrate in regard to the third one, and I could argue the case in regards to the suburban style build up. And the fourth refusal reason in regards to similar sections there on the Sproul Road and on the Castleban Road, and at the bottom of Sproul Road, Castleban and Carrick-Dartness Road. But I can't argue the case in regards to the PAC ruling from 2012 because there hasn't been the material difference in that case. So it's just more a comment. I do feel there's merit in the site, but I just don't see enough to try and propose a recommendation. So more a comment than anything else, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. So if anybody has, as I say, we have a recommendation there. If anybody has a proposal on this, Councillor Boyle.
Well, I think what Alderman Kerrigan said in relation to the last point is really where we're constrained in making any other recommendation than what I'm going to do here, Chair, and I propose we accept that recommendation presented by the officers.
Councillor Boyle, Councillor Devine.
I'll second that, Chair. I think we are, based on that decision by the PAC, we are constrained in terms of the decision we make around the clustering. And the information we were given the last day when we discussed this was that the PA, we had to decide if it was relevant or if this was a case in its own merit. And I think nothing has changed since that ruling in 2012. So I'm content to second.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. So, as I say, we've still somebody online, so we'll go to a vote on this, Maura, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is item 2 and it's a proposal to accept the officer recommendation to refuse. Alderman Keith Kerrigan,
Go against, Maura.
Alderman Neary McMorris,
Or more.
Alderman Janice Montgomery,
Or.
Councillor John Boyle,
Or.
Councillor Caroline Devine.
Ta.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Have.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
Or.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson has left meeting. Councillor Fergal Leonard. Thank you. Councillor Patricia Logue.
Or.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Mooney. Oh, he's gone. And Councillor Patrick Murphy has also left. Councillor Martin Riley. Thank you. Councillor Grace O'Neillis. Thank you. So that's 1 against and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 for.
Okay, thank you. So the proposal's been carried to accept the officer's recommendation. Moving on to number 7 now. This is 23 Hillhead Road in Clary, and Laura's doing this one as well.
So this is application LA11 2024-0383 and this is an outline application for the erection of a dwelling and garage located 150 metres south of 23 Hillhead Road, Clary. The recommendation is to refuse. So this is the site here outlined in the red line. It's currently part of a larger agricultural roadside field along Hillhead Road. It's located there adjacent to an area of woodland. There's a post and wire fence along the roadside boundary within the northern and western boundaries of the site, currently undefined. So this is just some photos of the application site there with the arrows indicating the location of the site. Just taken from the roadside. Here we have a policy context, including the RDS Strabane Area Plan, the SPPS, and Plan Policy Statements 2, 3, 15 and 21, and then the supplementary planning guidance. In terms of consultations, there have been no objections from any of the consultees, and standard advice and conditions have been proposed. So this proposal has been put forward as an application for a dwelling on a farm. So a farm business number has been provided, and DARA have confirmed that the farm business is currently active and has been established for 6 years. So policy CTY10 of PPS 21, this is the relevant policy consideration for this proposal. And it requires that all of the criteria set out in policy CTY10 are met. There with regards to the second criteria, there have been no dwellings or development opportunities sold off from the farm holding within the last 10 years. A history search by the planning officer has confirmed that. So therefore, the proposal does meet the first 2 parts of CTY10 in terms of Part A and Part B there. So Part C of policy CTY10 requires that the new buildings visually linked are sited to cluster with an established group of buildings on the farm. So this aerial image indicates the location of the application site. The principal farm group buildings there are located at 19 Rabstown Road, just there in the blue circle. So clearly this application site and a building on it wouldn't cluster with the principal group of buildings on the farm. And also given the separation distances, there is no visual linkage. As you can see, they're on 2 different roads. There's a distance of over 1 kilometre between the application site and the farm buildings. As you can see there are numerous agricultural fields and between the application site and the farm group. This, along with the landscape and the vegetation which surrounds those fields, doesn't allow for any views or any type of visual linkage. Now, policy CTY10 does allow for an exception for an offsite or an offsite location in terms of being located away from the farm group in two circumstances. And that is where there are no other sites available at the farm where there are demonstrable health and safety reasons or verifiable plans to expand the business. So the agent has commented that there are health and safety reasons, but no substantive evidence has been provided in that respect, and no information has been provided in terms of verifiable plans to expand the existing farm business. This is the existing group of farm buildings here, highlighted in the blue circle, with the agricultural land which is claimed by the applicant surrounding these buildings. So there's no evidence being submitted to demonstrate why these lands wouldn't be suitable to accommodate a farm dwelling. And on an initial review, it's considered that a dwelling could be potentially be accommodated on one of these fields and would better meet the requirements of policy CTY10. So overall, it's considered that the proposal doesn't comply with Part C of policy CTY10 and therefore isn't acceptable in principle. So obviously we have to consider the OR criteria of PPS 21, which is required by policy CTY10. As you'll note, the site's a cutout of a larger agricultural field. It's open in nature with undefined boundaries along the northern and western boundaries of the site. We do note that there is a mature wooded area at the southern boundary, which would provide some level of enclosure, but there are clear views and towards the site when travelling along Hillhead Road towards the site due to the open boundaries and the lack of enclosure. The access point will be located on the Hillhead Road. And then again, with regard to new planting, this would take a significant length of time to mature to a level where it could provide some integration of the dwelling. And PPS 21 is clear that new planting alone isn't sufficient. The proposal won't create or add to urban development or result in a suburban style building up of development. So on balance, the site doesn't benefit from a suitable degree of enclosure to provide integration, and it would be considered detrimental to the visual amenity of the rural area. Therefore, it's contrary to policy CTY10 and 13 of PPS 21 in that respect. In terms of amenity, again, there's a significant separation distance between the site and the nearby property. So there'll be no issues with regards to potential overlooking or overshadowing, and the site can provide a sufficient amount of amenity space for the occupants of the dwelling, so it therefore complies with the SPPS. In terms of site access, DFI Roads have been consulted and they have no objection, subject to conditions requiring visibility displays, so the proposal complies with PPS 3. In terms of natural heritage, the site's not within any protected areas. It doesn't accommodate any protected species, and there are no watercourses or bottom within the site. And therefore, the proposal is compliant with PPS 2. And again, there are no areas of flood risk identified at the site, so the proposal is considered to comply with policy with PPS 15. So just to summarise, in terms of the principle of this development, that's set out under policy CTY10 of PPS 21. Clearly, the proposed dwelling and garage are not visually linked, as they cited, or cited to cluster with an established group of buildings on the farm. There are lands claimed by the applicant within closer proximity to the main farm holding, which could potentially better accommodate a dwelling, and no evidence has been provided to support the displacement of the farm dwelling. The site's unable to provide a suitable degree of enclosure to visually integrate the proposed development, and overall refusal is recommended as the proposal is contrary to policy CTY1, CTY10 and CTY13 of PPS 21. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laura, for that. We don't have any indicated speakers on this one either, so I'll go straight to questions for the officers, please. Alderman Kerrigan.
Very much, Chair, for that man. And just it's more a general inquiry here for officers there. In regards to outlying farms and in regards to seeking to provide a dwelling on them, is there any, does this legislation, is there anything in regards to where there are no existing farm buildings? It's just trying to just clarify that in my own head here. I know I've been told this before, but it's just getting that clarity in my own head, because this is an outlying farm then from the main home farm, and it may well just be for livestock and transporting back, but there's a lack of farm infrastructure placed at this site. So I'm just querying in that regard. We had one on the road from Stavan to Claddock before. It was a small. There was a small cluster. I think it was about 12 acres of ground that a man had, and we did pass a dwelling house in that, but there was no farm buildings on it. But I'm just trying to get clarity in my own head the basis of that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kerrigan, through the chair. Laura's just checking the history there. I don't recall the details of the case that you have referenced there, but I think, in this case, we're looking at a farm and a case that's been submitted where there are established buildings on the farm. And I appreciate the land is obviously, there's land beside there, and there's obviously land where the site is, which is, as Laura says, over a kilometre away. We would be of the view, although we have not agreed an alternative here, or nor have we been presented with an alternative by the agent or the applicant to look at, but we would be content that there would be provision much closer, even accounting for health and safety. Obviously we are very, very mindful of those issues and sensitivity around that and the practicalities of it, but that is not what we have received in any sort of evidential context.
Thank you, Chair. Just to express the disappointment as well that there's no applicant or agent to speak, because there are reference terms there, that there are health and safety reasons there, but we have a lack of information that can be followed up to try to dig into the detail of it there, as is referenced in the application. But just the disappointment of that, just to state that. Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions for the officers, please? Anybody online? No further indications for anybody to ask any questions. So the recommendation to refuse this particular one is there first, and I'll just pass it over to committee members or if any further comments or anybody wants to make any proposal on this. Thank you.
Chair,
Alderman Kerrigan.
thank you very much. Chair, I've read the pack, and I know the area well, for it's within my own DEA, and I do know we have 2 refusal reasons stated there, and in regards to the first refusal reason, it is against CTY 1 of PPS 21, no overriding reason why this development is essential in the rural location, and I would be minded that with reference to it, the Stavan area plan, which is now nicely went down, but it's rural remainder. Let's went back to the very start of it here instead of at the page I had opened. The rural remainder 123.2.1. I do feel it has been referenced before, and I do feel that has as an argument against the first refusal reason. In regards to the second refusal reason, it states, contrary to CTY 10 and CTY 13 of PPS 21, that it will not be visually linked or sited to cluster and would appear prominent in the landscape, unable to provide suitable degree of enclosure to visually integrate. I would maintain that this is an outline application, and we are yet to see the plans. And if it was acceptable, if it was accepted by this committee, I would be more than content with any conditions in regards to ridge height or appropriate that planners would see fit to set on the application. I am minded that I don't feel it would be prominent in the landscape. I do feel that with the mature trees to the south of the property, and as the mature tree line continues there and its curvature across the road and going towards the Orchard Road side, I do feel that there is more enclosure than would be set if it was on one boundary on its own. The field in question is below the road. It does seem to, it is relatively flat there. There are not views further down into Clady and that. From being on the site and on the road and knowing that area well, I do note there are no views of the site as you would travel north along the Hillhead Road because you have some mature trees on both sides there, the forested trees in one section there. Views would be limited, if any, on the Orchard Road, either travelling on either direction on it, specifically due to the amount of dwellings that are on that, and there's a car breaker's yard as well, so the views would be very extremely limited there. The only views would be on the Hillhead Road as you would travel south, and there is the backdrop again stated of the mature woodland. I do feel that there would be, there's really no enclosure there of the adjacent property at 23 Hillhead Road, and I don't feel that any dwelling that would be deemed appropriate on the site would have more enclosure than the dwelling adjacent to it at 23 Hillhead Road. I do feel that there's a number of dwellings that are across Robstown Road as you would travel across Hillhead Road onto the Orchard Road, which again do not have significant enclosure. So I do feel it would be in keeping with the style of dwellings which are situated in that area. I can see here. I don't feel it will be unduly prominent in the landscape. I do take on board the point which has been raised by Suzanne in regard to there are other sites potentially identified in the closer to the main farm dwelling, but I would argue that those fields in that area would be knowing the area and knowing the quality of that area, that they would be of a better agricultural land value, and therefore I would be minded, whereby this field in particular, it looks a bit of a puddle hole to be just full of rushes on there as I passed it today. So it is, those would be with agricultural value, and to really take away half an acre for a dwelling house, whereby this site may well be, that would be my view on it in regards to that. This site is chosen more so because the land value, the land is of a poor quality, and therefore does not impact the sustainability of the farm. So in regards to CTY 10, as is stated here, sorry, I'll just get the wording of it here. It has met, as has been stated by Laura, it has met criteria A and it has met criteria B. I do feel that there is merit in criteria C, the demonstrable health and safety reasons. However, with lack of agent and lack of agent or applicant, and we don't have that the detail in that, we cannot therefore deal with 5.42 of the CTY 10. But I would be minded that given, again, referencing back to the Stamana Area Plan and the less restrictive planning policy, I do feel that we do have opportunity to potentially set aside Part C out of CTY 10, the visual linkage or site of the cluster. So in that case, Chair, I would be minded to propose that we do not accept the officer's recommendation and to overturn the application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. Just till I get this right, you're referring to a remainder for the first one and the rest of restrictive policy. And you suggesting a ridge height condition on that as well, on that one?
Sorry.
Have I picked that up, that you're proposing a ridge height restriction as part of that number 2?
Yes. Yes, Chair, sorry. Yeah, didn't hear you right. Yeah.
Officer wants to come in there.
Yeah, just in terms of if members want our opinion on that, our position would remain the same material of whether it was single story or two-story. We still believe that this is a very open and prominent site. And secondly, we wouldn't agree that the Strabane area plan rural remainder paragraph would have determining weight in this decision. So and I think Suzanne, you want to come in on one?
Through the chair, it was just really to advise members that in terms of the land value consideration, that wouldn't be a material consideration that we would afford determining weight to. So just to advise you of the position on that. Thank you.
Okay, Phil, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I must admit, I am a little bit confused by the reasons that are being put forward in relation to this one at the minute, because I think there was extensive discussion throughout the course of the reasons that were being put forward by Alderman Kerrigan about the manner in which this is compliant with policy, and a less restrictive interpretation of policy was required. However, in respect of Part C, I think the Alderman is saying that in fact it just plainly does not comply with policy. Now, I think we need to be clear if we're making a decision in relation to this matter, if we're making a decision on the basis that it's compliant with policy, or if we're making a decision on the basis that it doesn't comply with policy and we're setting policy aside, because that is very much the thrust of the judgment in the Part2 case. If it is a situation whereby we are setting policy aside, then as members know, there have to be extremely sound reasons and good reasons as to why policy would be set aside. And I think the difficulty in this particular case, if I may allude to it, is one that Alderman Kerrigan has made himself, in that there doesn't appear to be information which is here today, which has satisfied the Alderman himself in what he said as to why this particular application would justify setting it aside. It may well be that if the applicant had been here or the agent had been here, he may have been able to satisfy the inquiries that the Alderman has, but the Alderman has stated himself that he does not have that information to him here today. And consequently, as I say, if it is the view that policy should be set aside in this case, I'm not convinced that we're in that space at the minute. But that is ultimately a decision for members.
Thank you, Philip. Alderman Kerrigan.
Chair, in light of the legal advice, I am content if it is appropriate that this would be deferred to try and get that additional information. I have stated on the record that we're disappointed we don't have either the agent or the applicant who can try, and when they have stated that there are genuine health and safety concerns, I feel that it potentially could be compliant with policy, but the difficulty is we don't have that information. So again, I'm content if we are to, and again, Philip is correct there. I'm minded as compliant, but I was proposing that we would set aside on the basis that we don't have the information. If we were able to get that information, I would have been content to propose in that regard, because the application has stated that there are genuine health and safety reasons, but it's a lack of detail, so we can't get the 5.42 of CTY 10. But I am content if we wish, if it's appropriate, to defer to try and get additional information, or try and get an actual, either the agent or the applicant to come before the committee.
Yeah, thanks, Alderman Kerrigan. We just want to check if there's some information available here. Thank you.
Through the chair, just checking what we have asked for, because in terms of the additional information, just.
Mr. Devine.
Ask a question, please, of Maura. Maura, you'd said that the rural remainder isn't applicable. Can you just explain that to us and the reasoning behind that?
No, I didn't actually say it wasn't applicable. I said that in this case, it wouldn't hold determining weight, that the policy, the CT, the actual strategic policy, in my view, holds determining weight in this instance, and not the area plan, where there's potentially a conflict. That would be my view.
There,
So just through the chair, we did ask back in May, Laura has just confirmed there that we did ask, seek additional information. There was some information submitted. And it was quite general, just, and I'll just maybe read it to the committee just to advise you. To whom it may concern, I wish to advise I'm a son of the applicant that lived with my mother and father at the above address. My father and I work the farm. I've applied for a new dwelling away from the farm as I wish to live away from the farmyard for safety reasons for my child. So that's the information. There's no information in terms of practicalities and you know, demonstrable health and safety concerns that we would normally get in those sorts of cases. So just to clarify that, thanks.
okay, I'll open to the floor again for any. Go ahead, Alderman.
No, just is it appropriate that additional time is given to the next committee meeting, that they are given opportunity to seek to provide additional detail on that? In which case, I would be content to propose that be deferred, that given the time to the next committee meeting at the start of January, and in which case, if they haven't provided the information, but at least if they could try and clarify it a wee bit more, at least it gives us a better understanding of it, Chair.
Well, members, it'll be up to yourselves if we're okay to send that to approach the client again and ask for that information. So if you indication how you feel about that.
Happy to support that, Chair. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Everybody content to support that? Councillor Rogue.
Just a wee bit concerned, you know, we're trying to get planning applications through here, this department, you know, it's up to the people and the agents to submit the proper information, and the information was sought and we heard what came back. I just would be a wee bit more reluctant to keep going out for information after, you know, officers have been asking for it just all the time. And, you know, I just don't think that the information coming forward is going to make much of a difference anyway, if there is any. But for me, I just, you know, it's been brought to us for decision, and I just can't put enough weight on going back out for more information. That's a personal opinion.
Okay, members, we do seem to have a slight difference of opinion on whether we should go back out again and ask for more information, and we'll have to ask for a proposer and seconder and take it to a vote, to be fair to everybody. That's... Alderman Kerrigan, you propose, and can I have a seconder for that?
Happy to second, Chair.
We're going to go to a vote on this now.
This is a proposal to defer the application in order to provide further information on health and safety in regard to the case, to support the case. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Laura.
Alderman Neary McMorris.
Or.
Okay. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Or.
Okay. Councillor John Boyle.
I had to leave the room during the presentation, so I was planning to abstain on the actual application vote. I'm not sure if I can vote on the proposal for a deferral. I can vote on this, yeah. I don't see, I agree with Councillor Logue, actually. I don't see it as a healthy position to be in when you've asked for information, the information hasn't been presented to you, that you would go back out again. So I don't think it should be deferred. I think a decision should be made here today, one way or the other.
So it's an against. Yeah. Councillor Caroline Devine.
Against.
Okay, thank you.
I find it really disappointing that we don't have the agent or the applicant here in front of us today.
Okay. Councillor Sean Fleming.
If the applicant had more information that they wanted to share with this committee, today was the day to do it. Neil.
Okay. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson has left. Councillor Fergal Leonard. 4. Councillor Patricia Logue.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Mooney. Oh, sorry, Sean's gone. Councillor Patrick Murphy has left also. Councillor Riley.
Against for the same
Okay.
reasons as others have
And
indicated.
Councillor Grayson Ellis.
Neil.
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 Thank you. Oh, no. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. So against.
Yeah, so is this decision against going out for further information?
Yeah, that's correct.
So members, do you go back to the floor and ask for another proposal, please?
Or I'll propose.
Councillor Logue.
I propose we say accept officer's recommendation. I second that.
Thank you, Sus. We have a proposal and a seconder to accept the officer's recommendation, so we're going to go to a vote on this.
Okay, members, this is item 7 again, and this is proposal to accept the officer's recommendation to refuse. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
I'll go against, Mara.
Yeah, thank you. Alderman Mary McMorris.
Against.
Thank you. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor John Boyle.
Abstain.
Can abstain, yeah. Councillor Caroline Devine.
Ta.
Okay. Councillor Sean Mooney. Oh, sorry, Sean Fleming.
Ta.
Okay. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Okay. Councillor Christopher Jackson has left. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Against.
Okay. Councillor Patricia Logue.
Or.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Mooney. I was left. Apologies, can't keep up with these. Councillor Patrick Murphy has also left, and Councillor Martin Riley. And Councillor Grace O'Neill.
Ta.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 against, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4. So that's it. Chair.
Okay. So members, that application has been refused. We'll move. Application number 8. This is the highlighting columns, in Colmore Road, and Suzanne is taking us through this one.
Thank you, Chair. This is the application item number 8. It's L11 2023 1706, the installation of 90 6-metre high lighting columns along the Greenway and Pass at lands northeast east of Bay Road Business Park, known as Bay Road, including the path towards Boom Hall leading to Culmore Road, Derry, and the recommendation is to approve. And the application, members, is in front of you today because it's a council application. You'll see in the packs just on the slide, there is the location map, quite extensive, obviously, and then there's just a satellite overhead of the site as well. So the site and surrounding area, the site is the southern part is within an existing recreation open space within the Derry Area Plan and was designated by council as a local nature reserve in 2009. And the northern part of the site is within the Boom Hall Historic Gardens domain and area of high scenic value. There's hydrological links to the Fuhan and the Foyle tributaries ASSI, SAC, and the flood maps indicate that the eastern portion lies within the 1 to 100 year fluvial floodplain and the 1 to 200 coastal floodplain. And the site, as you will be familiar, follows the existing pathway cycleway network that runs through Bay Road Park and past Boom Hall. The proposal is quite technical. It's the installation of 90 lighting columns stretching along the greenway. The technical details are all set out in your report. Don't propose to read through them all here in detail, but the lighting and the positioning and the sensors and the works and the mitigation has all been obviously included within the ancillary reports submitted with the application, as we've referenced. The drawing there just indicates the elevation of the lighting columns. Again, that's included within your reports. There have been 6 letters of objection from 3 individual households, and those just centre along some main issues in terms of the impact of the lighting on the wildlife, lack of support and information, the impact of the construction works, potential for antisocial behaviour, conflict of interest that council is the applicant and the decision maker, contamination concerns, loss of view and inappropriate use of rates funds. So we've also looked at those in the report, those that are material to the consideration of the application. The consultees, as you'll also note, have returned no objections to the proposal. Policy framework is the Dairy Area Plan, the SPPS and Planning Policy Statements 2, 3, 8 and 15. And the Dairy Area Plan, those are the main policies that we've considered under in the report. And we feel that there will be no loss of open space, and it is compatible with the objectives and the requirements as it's set within partially within the area of high scenic value. That will actually obviously enhance the open space and the pathwork network for all the community, and it will have no impact on the trees and landscape features. And with mitigation, it will have no impact on the water environment. In terms of PPS 8, then there will be, the site is an existing greenway, the developments relating to an existing recreational use. There'll be no loss of any existing open space. It will enhance the recreational value and public access, and again, no impact on the river foyle. We have looked at the objections in terms of the other material considerations, and in terms of the amenity, there's one property there which is 20 metres within 20 metres of one of the proposed lighting columns, but we've considered, Environmental Health have considered the specific objection and advised that they're content due to the technical specification of the lights, and those details are also in your report. Environmental Health have recommended a condition relating to the timing of the works, and providing that those mitigation measures are followed, there will be no unacceptable adverse impact on the residential amenity of any of the nearby properties. No impact, no issues in terms of the access. In terms of the flood risk, although it does lie partly within the floodplain and the coastal floodplain due to the nature of these being single poles, rivers have no objection to the proposed development, and obviously best practice in terms of the temporary deposition of materials during construction. So it will not materially increase flood risk. In terms of natural heritage, apologies for that very detailed slide. Again, very, very technical information, but on balance, Shared Environmental Services have advised that they're content with NIA's comments on it. We'll obviously be conditioning a final construction environmental management plan on it. There are no concerns that obviously mitigation is required, so there are no concerns that this will result in any unacceptable impact. And then just moving on to the summary then. So it's a public realm project, behalf of this council, clearly enhancing the greenway for general public by providing nighttime lighting. We've considered the objections. Most of them are all material planning considerations, and the consultation responses, and we recommend approval subject to the conditions in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. We've no speakers on this item either, so I'll pass it over to questions for the officers, please. Oh, we can't see anybody asking anything? Okay, Councillor Neelis.
If there's no questions, I'm happy to make a proposal on this. I'm happy to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation to approve this application. As a councillor in this area, this is something that I'm continually asked about the Lightning in the Bay Road. And the timing of this isn't lost on us, given that there have been 2 attacks in women recently in park areas. So this will be a very welcome asset within that area for people who like to walk and exercise in the darker nights. Can't move it.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please?
Did you get it? Did I get a second?
Councillor Lowe, go ahead.
Sorry, did you get a seconder?
I got a seconder. Thank you. Thank you. So we have a proposer and a seconder, and we don't have anybody online anymore. So can I take it as everybody's in agreement with this? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So that's approved. Folks, we are at 6 o'clock due to finish, but can I ask for your indulgence? We'll keep going for another 15 minutes or so. Is that okay? Thank you. Is that all right, love? Yeah, thank you. So I just want to go into agenda item 8, and this is about the draft response to DFI about the Owenray wind farm. And Andre's going to do this.
Thank you, through the chair. The Department for Infrastructure Strategic Planning Division has consulted the council in relation to a planning application SPD 2023-0981 F, and that's for the decommissioning and repowering of the operational Owenray 1 and 2 wind farms. So a paper was presented to members at the Planning Committee meeting on the 6th of November. And it was agreed that any comments that members wish to make could be forwarded to the Planning Department by Friday, the 15th of November. So no comments were received from members. However, officers have drafted a response, which is appended to the paper. So if members are content, the recommendation is that officers will proceed to issue the consultation response to SPD. Thank you.
So I take members have had a chance to read through this. Could have a proposer and seconder for it, please? Alderman Morris. Councillor Reddy, thank you. Thank you to officers for preparing that. Agenda items 9 and 10 are for listed decisions and appeals update. Is there any queries on that? Comments? No. Agenda item 11. Susanna's going to talk to us about this, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this item is just for information, but just obviously to explain that we have received correspondence from the Director of Regional Planning, Governance and Legislation, Rosemary Daly, who's given us a letter to remind us of a number of reports, and this is an action out of the July 2024 Northern Ireland Audit Office report, which was into the misrepresentation of the soil sample analysis. We are also being reminded of the March 2023 Northern Ireland Audit Office report, Planning and Fraud Risks. And then finally, we have been reminded of a publication from back in 2019, which is a Northern Ireland Audit Office Making Partnerships Work, a Good Practice Guide for Public Bodies. So we have included those 3 reports as appendices for your information today. And we have also, we're also required to bring those to the attention of everybody in planning, all planning staff and all those staff involved in council's planning structures. So happy to take any queries, and that's all. Thanks.
So has anybody any queries for Susanna on this? No. Just one other item of news that you may or may not be aware of. This is Maura's last meeting for her, as she's taken a career break. Hopefully it'll not be her last meeting, but she's taken a career break anyway. she was telling me earlier about how many years she's been here, but I don't believe she's been here that many years. She only looks as if she's been here about 2 years. But she did refer to Councillor Boyle, and Councillor Jackson, and Councillor Logue, all here from her start date. So I'm sure you have plenty of stories, but I'm sure you'd join with me and wishing Maura well during her career break.
Can I just add to that as well? And just on behalf of the SDLP to wish Maura all the best with the career break. Hopefully it'll not be a very long career break, Maura, and we'll see you back soon enough. But just to wish you well with that. And we'll keep the stories for another day, Chair, if you don't mind. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Sorry, just again, Chair, on behalf of the officer team and all Maura's friends and colleagues, we wish her well. Thank you.
Councillor Logue.
If I could just come on there, I think I got the gist of it more. You're going on a career break. So just want to, on behalf of, we're all separate here, but on behalf of our party, we want to wish you all the best and hope you don't be too long coming back to us. Okay.
Again, just to wish you all the best on your career break, Maura. Thank you very much.
And for myself too, Maura, thanks for all your help. I don't know if you've seen an email, but there's a fog warning out there at the minute. So I wish you all to have a safe journey home. I don't know if I'll see you before the Christmas period or not, but wish you all a peaceful Christmas and to you and your families and a safe and healthy New Year. Thank you.